Welcome back to another episode of the Braun Performance and Rehab Podcast, powered by ISOFIT and Firefly Recovery. ISOFIT is my go-to for all things isometric strength training. For more on ISOFIT, be sure to check out isofit.com. Episodes like this are made possible by Firefly, the official recovery provider of the Braun Performance and Rehab Podcast. For more on Firefly, be sure to check out recoveryfirefly.com. This episode is powered by Dr. Ray Gorman, founder of Engage Movement. Learn how to boost your income without relying on sessions. Get a free training on the blended practice model by following at Ray Gorman DPT on Instagram. DJ, welcome to the podcast. I'm super excited to work with you today. For people who aren't familiar with you and your incredible backstory surrounding tennis, would you mind filling them in a little bit about who you are and all the amazing things you have going on down there in Auburn?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being here. I'm DJ Bennett. I play for Auburn women's tennis. I just recently got ranked number 1 in the country in NCAA, in the NCAA rankings, which is really exciting. It's my first time being number 1. I spent pretty much all last year between like 2 and 5. So this year for the preseason rankings being ranked number 1, it means a lot. I'm going into my senior year, or just started my senior year of college. So hoping for, last one, best one, making the most out of it.
That is absolutely incredible. And I mean, complete hats off to you. Number 1 in the country at the D1 level is incredible. I have to ask, is this where you saw yourself, 5-10 years ago when you were first getting into tennis? Did you ever think, I'm going to be ranked number 1 in all of D1 women's tennis?
Definitely not. I mean, it was always a dream. I always was like, I definitely can do that, but I never thought that it would actually happen. It was the same thing like last year when I made it to the NCAA finals. I was like, every match that I won, I was like, I can't believe I'm still here. You know what I mean? It was like unreal. So it was always something that I thought I could do, and like a dream that I had, but I never thought that it would actually happen. So, but it's cool. It's really cool, like making that dream a reality for sure.
I'd love to unpack that a little bit more. How did we get to this point, DJ? How did we get to the point where we're heading into senior year, we're ranked number 1 in the country and so on that way? Because all of this started somewhere. Where did tennis initially start and kind of enter the life picture for you?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I actually did gymnastics competitively. I would say that I was pretty good, but I definitely was going to be way too tall for that sport. So my parents had to talk with me when I was around 10. They were saying you're going to have to decide, either we're going to move to another gym somewhere where I would like actually improve beyond the level that I had already gotten to, or switch sports. So at my big age of 10, I decided to switch to tennis, and so I started full-time playing tennis at probably like 10 and a half, almost 11. And it was like full speed ahead from there. I started playing all the junior tournaments and traveling all over the place, all in South Florida, playing all the tournaments that all these other girls that had been playing since they were like 3 or 4 were playing. And then going into high school, I think, was really when I started to take off. I was starting to separate from some of the other girls that I hadn't really been on the same level as them when we were younger, just because they had so much more experience than me. So I was doing really well in some of the really big junior tournaments when I was around 15. And then I got hurt. I dislocated both my kneecaps, actually. Not at the same time. Everyone is always like, oh my gosh, at the same time. Not at the same time. It was 2 different injuries, but like the same thing. So I think I'm trying to think of when it first happened. I was 15. I turned 16, I think like 3 months after the initial injury. So yeah, the first time that it happened, it was just like I just felt like a crack in my knee. I was like, that's weird, and that hurt. And I just tried to like rehab it in Gainesville. Actually, I was going to the doctors at UF. I was rehabbing my knee there, and then a couple months later, like, it would dislocate again. Like, I guess it's sublux, I guess. I don't really know the name for it. Something like that. So it like kept happening, and then in September, right after I turned 16, I had like a total dislocation. I looked at my knee and my kneecap was fully out of place. I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening right now? And so that was when I decided, I was like, well, not me specifically, but me, my parents, and my doctor were like, you need to have a surgery to fix this so that it doesn't keep happening. And so the surgery that I had, it was the Macy procedure and the MPFL because of cartilage damage and everything like that, because I dislocated my knee so many times. So I had an arthroscopic procedure in September of 2019. I had the MPFL and Macy procedure in December of 2019. So from September to December was when they took some of my cartilage and regrew it and put it back in my knee in the surgery that I had in December. And so after that surgery, my recovery was, I think, a year and a half total, because I couldn't even run. I was only allowed to walk for the first 9 months, and I was in a big knee brace for the first 2 months after surgery. So it was just a really long recovery for that one. But I mean, everything went well. I rehabbed obviously really hard, tried to get my range of motion and my strength back, everything like that. And once I was completely healed and cleared to play, I was probably playing tennis for 2 months after, and then the same thing happened in my left side. But after going through everything before with my right knee, me and my family, we were pretty experienced with everything that happened with my knee the first time, so we already knew kind of what to do. And I told my doctor, I was like, I just want to have the surgery and be done with it. I don't want to try and rehab it or doing it, just get it over with. And so that recovery was about a year. It wasn't as long as the first one because I didn't have as much cartilage damage, so it was only about a year. But yeah, I was out for 3 years total, from 15 to 18, rehabbing and just trying to get back to be able to run again. And it was around the same time as COVID, and also when I was getting recruited as well. So it was a lot was going on. And I didn't think that I was even going to be recruited by colleges because I hadn't played in probably a year when I started, when recruiting opened for my class. I got contacted by some schools, which was really surprising. And Auburn was one of the first schools. I think the coach was the first one to reach out to me. I mean, me and my family, we were really surprised that I was getting contacted by coaches at all, obviously. So it was a really exciting time for me. And that was really all that I was focusing on, was having these recruiting calls, because I really wasn't able to play that much. Yeah, it was a lot, talking to all these different schools and telling them the story of everything that happened. And it kind of turned some of the coaches off as well, because they're like, oh, well, I don't know if you're going to be okay or if you're going to be as good as you were before, you got hurt. So that kind of weeded out some of those schools. But for the schools that still wanted to talk to me no matter what, it gave me a good feeling that some coaches would still want me, even knowing my history and stuff like that. Yeah, so I got recruited in the middle of between what was going on with my right knee. I hadn't injured my left knee yet, halfway in between everything that had happened. And Auburn was at the top of my list. I went on a few unofficial visits, because it's only a 5.5 hour drive from my house in Florida. So my parents, we'd make the road trip all the time to watch the girls play or just come and see the campus and things like that. And the first time I came here, I absolutely fell in love with it. The people, the girls on the team, just everything about the school. I was obsessed with it. And I was I have a really good feeling about this school. I want to go to this school. And so I came on my official visit, and on my official visit was when I hurt my left knee. Actually, I was in the hotel on campus when I hurt my left knee. So that cut my visit a little bit short, and that's when I went home and decided that I was just going to have the surgery on my left knee and get it over with. And at that same time, I called the head coach and was I told her that I needed to have another surgery, and if she wanted to take me, then I would love to come to Auburn, and if not, then I'll look for another place to go. And the coach at the time told me that they would support me 100% and take me on, they trusted that I would do everything that I could to be back and healthy again. And they wanted to do everything they could to support me through the whole process. So that made me feel really good and comforted about my decision. And so right on that phone call, I was I want to come to Auburn. And that was when I committed pretty much. And since then, it's been uphill pretty much. Yeah, I mean, that was the whole thing with my knee surgeries and that process. And then once I was cleared after all the surgeries to start playing again, I played high school tennis. I won states, and I played like one or two tournaments other than that, and I won both of those. Just I literally hadn't played tennis in like 3 years, so I was just trying to get matches. And then I went right off to college. So I had maybe like 4 or 5 months of actually like being able to play before I even got to school. So I just kind of got like thrown into the fire a little bit after the whole like recovery and everything like that. But yeah.
Yeah, what an incredible backstory, DJ. My goodness, that is wicked impressive. You should write a book if you haven't already. I'm waiting for that to come out. I would gladly buy a copy, ideally a signed copy.
Yeah, perfect. I got you. I'm not a big writer, but I think I can make something work eventually. I think.
I'd love that. Yeah, and just to
Yeah.
kind of run it back a little bit here. So it sounds like we have an origin in gymnastics. And around age 10, we started to realize, you know what, maybe gymnastics is not the long-term thing. We
Yeah.
pivoted, did a full 180, and went all in on tennis.
Yeah.
All in, did not look back. And next thing you know, tennis kind of became life, from my understanding. And it sounds like you faced some crazy challenges with the knees during that time. And it's interesting because that's usually how I meet athletes for one reason or another. It seems like the knee seems to be the thing getting injured almost all the time. And some people it's like ligaments or meniscus, and some people it's cartilage. It's all these different things. And having the procedure that you had, I'm sure most people are not familiar with it, right? A lot of times people are like, "Oh, is it your ACL?" They're
ACL.
like, "No, it's the cartilage," and they just kind of look at you like, "So it's not the ACL?" And this is one of the many reasons we did an entire podcast on Oates and Macy procedures with Dr. Andreas Kamal a couple of years ago, because people are just very confused when it comes to these concepts. They're like, wait a second, what is this? And what does it mean? And obviously the rehab, as you outlined, can be very long. It can be daunting, and it tends to be scary, not just for athletes, because they get told, oh my gosh, it's going to be a year or more before I play sport again. A lot of times athletes' identity is within sport, for better or for worse. That's where they kind of find themselves. So the thought of them not being involved in that for that long of a time, they really don't usually take well to that. And on top of that, a lot of clinicians struggle with it, because you see someone on day one or day two post-op, and you're realizing that you have to plan from that day all the way out for the next year and beyond. And these are not the most common injuries, right? Like
Yeah.
PCLs are happening, a couple 100,000 instances per year. We're not seeing nearly as many cartilage injuries. However, that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be given attention. And that doesn't mean that we just kind of say, oh, well, we'll do what we can and then hand them off to the next person. It's like we have to go all in on this and really put the people first, regardless of what the injury or diagnosis or whatever is that way. So I'd love to hear more about your thoughts just in relation to how you stayed so positive and locked in through not one, but two really long-term knee rehabs that way, because that's something that's often challenging for athletes to do.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there was never really a thought in my mind that I wasn't going to be able to play tennis again. I kind of just I tried really hard to have a super positive outlook on everything, and I took it as a chance to, focus on school and focus on being around my family. Because before I got injured, I was down at a boarding school in Tampa, so I would only see my parents like every weekend or like every other weekend, if that, because I'd want to, hang out with my friends. But yeah, so I kind of just tried to focus on, yeah, doing well in my school and spending time with my family and just taking it as a much needed time off, I guess. Which I guess it wasn't really time off just because I was like rehabbing and everything like that, but it was a good, like, definite rest for my body, in certain ways. And I think it was also a blessing in disguise just because of the timing of everything and what happened with COVID. It was kind of like it was perfect timing for me just because tennis kind of stopped, like tournaments and everything like that. People weren't traveling as much, and so I didn't fall too far behind in that aspect. But obviously, tennis is a pretty isolated sport in general, so people obviously were still practicing and being able to hit and stuff like that, and I didn't get that opportunity, so that's where I fell behind in that sense. But the tournament perspective, it was like perfect timing. But yeah, I just it honestly it went by really fast. 3 years sounds like a long time, but for me it went by really fast. Like the first few months, where I was in that really big knee brace, I was like, oh my gosh, get me out of this thing. But then, once I was able to start walking and doing a lot more of like the strengthening exercises, once I got my full range of motion back, that's where everything kind of it went like really, really fast, and it built up really quickly. So getting it back into like slight jogging and then sprinting and doing jumps and leg presses and all that stuff. It was a cool process as well, but it definitely went by really fast. So that helped a lot. And yeah, I mean, I had a lot to like focus on with that. So it was I mean, it was good. And I never really had a doubt in my mind that I wouldn't be able to play again, just because I had so much confidence in the surgeon that did my procedure as well. I trusted him like 100%, that he was going to be able to get me back to being healthy and able to play again. So whenever it happened the second time, obviously I didn't like blame him for that, because it was my other knee, so he didn't have anything to do with that. But I just kind of wish that I had like expected it a little bit more, because nobody really said after the first one happened like, oh, if it happens to one, it's like there's a pretty high chance that it's going to happen to the other one as well. It was a little bit of like a shock, but just going through it all before like helped a little, because like me and my parents, we knew way more about everything that was going on rather than going through it the first time. So
Yeah, it sounds like you really clung to that positivity and you had a lot of confidence within yourself and within the people around you during that time. And I think that
yeah,
speaks volumes to the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people and making sure you're comfortable and confident with everything that's going
yeah,
on. Because
yeah, 100.
ultimately, if you have any kind of doubts, that's going to show up at some point in this process. The
Yeah,
sooner
definitely.
you attack those, the better everything else falls into place, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Just being like confident and having that mindset, it helps so much. And yeah, just being confident in my surgeon, that was like the biggest thing for me, because I know there are some other girls that are playing collegiate tennis that have had knee injuries, and they keep getting the same injury like over and over again on the same leg. And I'm like, girl, you better switch your surgeon or do something, because clearly something's not working. So yeah, luckily I haven't had any issues like that. But yeah, it was a lot of it came from me and my mindset for sure, just not ever losing the confidence that it was going to happen again, or that I was going to get hurt again. Just putting full like trust into myself for sure.
Absolutely. Now, during that time, obviously, an element of control is stripped from you. Before the surgery, before the injuries, I should say, you're able to go out, you're playing tennis, you're running, you're lifting, doing whatever you want, whenever you want. You have full control. Then after a surgery or a procedure like this, you're being told when you can do those certain things and what exercise to do and how much, how many times per day. You just lose all sense of control, and you just kind of have to buy into this long-term process of showing up and doing the work over and over and over again. I'd love to
Yeah.
hear more about what that rehab process looked like for you. Some athletes that I work with have had great experiences, and it sounds like that's kind of what you had. Others have things that, hey, maybe it could have been better, and I think it all presents a great learning opportunity for us.
Yeah, so me and my PT, like I had a great relationship with him. I had seen him for even like before I had the surgeries. So I had already like knew him and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, having like a great relationship with him really helped. We were, it was fun. Like I was actually kind of excited to go to PT, because I would get to talk to him and like just get out of the house. But yeah, it was not easy at all, definitely. After the surgery, when I was in the big knee brace, I couldn't put any pressure, I couldn't walk, I couldn't do any of this. I was in crutches. So in the beginning it was a lot of it was like the using the stem or the tens unit. Yeah, a lot of that, just trying to get a little bit of strength back, because my leg had like atrophied so much. And once I got out of the brace and I was able to walk, we focused a lot on getting like range of motion, which I think that for me was the hardest thing, to get back. and it was really frustrating because I wanted just to be able to like bend my leg all the way, and I would get to like a certain point and it literally wouldn't go any further, and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm never going to be able to bend my leg again. But yeah, that was like a really slow process. Just being able to get the full range of motion back, and then like towards the end when I was like super close, I had like a few degrees left of getting like full range of motion back. That's like the worst part because I feel like I'm so close and I'm like right there, but it's not like 100% yet. But then once I got it all back, it was like I never lost it. So, it was like cool kind of to follow that process. And then after that, it was just getting the strength back, just from not being able to exercise for so long. So, yeah, it was a lot of like squats and RDLs, leg presses, things like that. And my PT would do a good job of trying to like mix things up. And it wasn't just like we were doing the same thing every single time when I went, because I was going like 2 or 3 times a week. And then I was also doing stuff on my own at home that he would send me with. So just trying to like mix things up a little bit as well. And he would make it like exciting, whenever I would make the next step and trying different exercises. And like whenever I started jumping, I remember it was little jumps at first, and then once I got to jumping on one leg or jumping really far, I was like, he would always make it a competition to see like if I could get a little bit further, a little bit further. So he made it really fun for sure.
I think that's so essential. It's like, where did the fun in sports and in rehab go? A lot of these times people come to me and they're telling me all these stories, and it just sounds like things have gotten robotic for some people for whatever reason. And I think the more enjoyable we can make it, the more exciting we can make it. And I don't care what we're talking about, whether that's practice or the training room or rehab or whatever it is that way. I think there's a certain element of keeping people engaged and entertained with what they're doing that you need to have in order to kind of get that long-term process, especially nowadays.
Yeah, yeah, I would 100% agree. And I feel like it's definitely a two-way street because I feel like some people can come into the PT room and be like just not excited to be there and be like, oh, like this is hard or this or that. I feel like that can definitely be draining. So I think if you come in and you're excited to be there and get a little bit better that day, then that like helps as well. But just having like some positivity from both sides.
Power of positivity at the end of the day.
Yeah, 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 definitely.
Now, as you were talking about your story, you also mentioned about how after you came back from these two injuries, you went back in and did some tournaments, competed in the high school level, and won state champions, won tournaments after literally spending about 3 years recovering that way. And obviously, that's a long time to miss playing tennis, but it sounds like the skill element never really left you. How do you feel like you were able to hold on to some of those different tennis skill elements during a long period of time without playing that way?
Yeah, I feel like once you get to a certain point, it never really leaves you. And there are some things that, like, I definitely lost a little bit of my touch, like with my slice backhand or things like that, like my volleys. Um, but the basic things like forehand, backhand serve, like that never really leaves you. And I think the level that I was playing at, I mean, obviously wasn't even close to like where I am right now, but like the tournaments that I played and the level that I was playing at in high school, it wasn't the greatest. So I think it was a good like stepping block for me just to kind of ease back into things a little bit. And then when I got to college, that was like just a whole nother level. Like obviously I'm playing grown woman and I haven't really played for the past 3 years. So I definitely got beat down a little bit when I first got to college. But I mean it worked out for the best because I got knocked down and then I picked myself back up and then found myself on top. So yeah, when I first got to college, I played some tournaments in the summer. Those are whatever, just some practice matches pretty much is what I consider them. And then my first tournament actually like in the fall season was one of the ones in Cary. And in that tournament I did pretty well. I beat some like ranked girls that were like juniors or seniors that like had done pretty well in their previous years in college. Um so that was like a good confidence booster for me, but in that tournament I got a stress reaction in my foot. So that was like another little step back for me, and then I had to take off the rest of the fall because the area that it was in, like if I kept playing on it, I would have had to have surgery on my foot. So I was like, I'm good. I'll just take some time off. So even going into like my freshman spring season, I didn't have very many matches under my belt. So I got thrown into like the middle of the lineup. I was playing three, like as a freshman, having 5 matches under my belt, and got, beat down a little bit and then picked myself back up. I got moved down from 3 to 4, and then I don't think I really lost a match at the 4 spot. And then as the season went on, got moved back up to 3 and was doing fine. So I think for me it was a good thing that I got just kind of thrown into the fire because I don't know, it's kind of like what I needed. I needed to just see what it was like, see what the level was like, and just get used to it. And I feel like that's how it's been over the past couple of years. Like my freshman year playing 3, and then my sophomore year I started at 3, and then I moved up to 2, and I was doing really well at 2. And then last year, I played 1, so it was like a gradual kind of build up over the past 3 years. And so this year, like going into this year, hopefully it depends on what our lineup is going to be, but hopefully, I have experience of playing at the number 1 spot and playing against all of the other like top girls in the country. So just having like that slow build up to this year, and then I think the level that I'm at now, um, is definitely like it's very close to where I want to go with my career after college, which is playing professionally. So I think if you're really successful with playing against these top girls in college, then you're like pretty much right there with being able to play with the pros as well. So it's been a good slow build up for me over the past 4 years.
Absolutely. I cannot wait to see where the sport of tennis takes you from a professional level. It sounds like to me you have this unrivaled ability to just shift and adapt to pretty much anything life throws at you. It's like you
Yeah,
just kind of throw yourself into the situation, throw yourself into the tournament, and just kind of figure it out as you go, right? It's like, you
yeah.
know what? It's like I'm going to jump off a metaphorical cliff and build an airplane on my way down or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
crazy to hear that, but I feel like
Yeah.
that's a common trait that I see amongst really high level athletes in their sport is no matter what gets thrown at them, no matter what problem is put in their place, they have this unrivaled ability to solve that problem in a creative way that most people don't even think about doing. So I certainly see that as like a big common trait and common element amongst high level athletes and top performers that way.
Yeah, yeah, I would 100% agree, and that's why like we are top college athletes or top athletes like throughout the world, is because we have that mindset. And that's like what separates us from the rest of just regular athletes, I guess. But yeah, I think it's definitely that mindset is what separates the top from everybody else.
Quick break, because if you're a rehab professional sick of burnout, this could be your answer. Engage Movement's blended practice model is a proven system built by Dr. Ray Gorman, a PT who walked away from the 55-hour-a-week grind and built a blended practice model that doubled his income while working less than 25 hours a week, and he didn't have to rely on the traditional way of selling sessions to do so. It's all about blending remote and in-person services, stacking monthly recurring revenue, and building a business that finally supports your life, not the other way around. This model isn't just theory. Real providers, including myself, are creating lives of freedom and flexibility without being tied to their schedule. And as a listener, you get free access to the complete training. DM my name, Dan, to @RayGormanDPT on Instagram and receive your free breakdown on the model. Absolutely. And correct me if this is wrong, but I think one of the key elements to developing that mindset, if you're someone listening to this, maybe you're a high school athlete or something like that, going back to what you mentioned before about surrounding yourself with the right people, whether that's surgeons and PTs and family and so on, or just
Mm.
coaching and teammates, I think being in the right environment can really help you develop that sense of confidence and that sense of, just pardon my English, but badassery that is really hard to find in a lot of other places. And going back to something you mentioned before too, about the recruiting process and how you called your coach at Auburn, explained the situation, and they're like, no, we still want you to come. I think those are the kinds of people that you want in your corner and you need kind of within your inner circle, if you will, if you're looking to develop that level of long-term performance and long-term just able to get thrown into any situation, anything, and
Yeah.
come out on top for one way or another that way. I think the more you surround yourself with those kind of people, the better off you are long-term. And
Yeah.
even if you go on a visit and you think, you know what, this is the place for me, and then something like your situation happens, but the story is flipped, and the coach is like, you know what, hey, don't come here anymore, we don't want you, or whatever that way. To me, that's like the universe or God or whoever you believe in, their way of kind of redirecting you and saying like, hey, that wasn't the right environment for you. You need to go somewhere else where they're going to support you and help you regardless of whatever your situation is.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I definitely think that everything happens for a reason, and I also believe in like you are who you surround yourself with. Obviously, if you're surrounding yourself with people who are they just kind of have a bad attitude about everything and they're negative and down on themselves, like it's gonna bring you down with them. So, just surrounding yourself with positive people and people who have a good attitude and have a good outlook on life, it's like makes very big difference. It's like the whole world of a difference for sure. So, but yeah, I definitely agree, and I think that everything happens for a reason. So.
Absolutely. And I find that there's a lot of times people out there just for one reason or another can't help but comment on someone else's journey in a not so positive way. They like to kind of pick people apart. And I call them armchair quarterbacks because a lot of these people can't do anything quite as athletic or impressive as,
Yeah.
individuals such as yourself that way. But for whatever reason, they just find that they have nothing better to do than to make negative comments. And I think going back to what you mentioned before about how everything happens for a reason, I think there's something to be said about taking those negative comments and finding ways to prove them wrong or kind of use that as like additional motivation and fuel to continue to press on, because there's always going to be naysayers regardless of what your walk of life is. You can never make everyone happy, but I think the more you're able to come to terms with that, come to peace with that, and use that to continue to fight the good fight that you've been doing, the better off you're going to be from an athletic standpoint, but also carrying it over into life as well.
Yeah, 100%. There have definitely been people who are like, they don't have the belief and they don't think that, or they didn't think that I could have gotten to where I have gotten to and been able to do the things that I've accomplished in my career. And that just gives me all the more motivation to be like, I'm gonna prove you wrong, you know? And so I think that's also another aspect and like another mindset of what really separates like really top athletes apart from like other people is just having that inner drive, like the inner fire, like fire in your belly that you just want to be better than everyone and you want to prove everyone wrong. So yeah, when I was getting recruited and there were schools that stopped talking to me right after I told them the whole story of everything with my knees, I was like, okay, you're on my bad list and I'm gonna go show you what you missed out on.
And now they're calling you up asking if you want to transfer, right?
Yeah, low key, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to go there anyways, knowing some stuff that I know, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think some people are definitely regretting their decisions on dropping me, but it's okay.
Hey,
Everything
you got to
happens for
prove them wrong at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely incredible. I love to see that. And I think everyone just loves a story like yours in the sense that it's like someone on a mission to just prove a bunch of people wrong, but
Yep.
not just prove them wrong, but really walk this path that hasn't really been walked by many people before and turn around and use it as a way to inspire that next generation of athletes. Because I feel like, and this could just be me and, my 1 month now of living in North Carolina talking, but I feel like I'm seeing and hearing more about tennis than I did 5 to 10 years ago. And again, maybe that's just my limited experience, but I feel like there's some kind of growth and shift happening in the sport where I'm certainly seeing and hearing more about it now than I ever did before. And I
Yeah.
feel like that in order for that to continue to grow and excel, there needs to be people like you, because there's so many other athletes that are going to be in comparable situations to yours where things don't go their way and they end up with this injury or that injury, or they're in a surgery and they're out for a year, whatever obstacle gets thrown in their way by life. They need to be able to overcome that, and they can complete, they have everything they need to beat back whatever obstacle gets put in their path and continue to excel in their sport and in life and in any endeavor that they choose to pursue. But as you've mentioned, it comes back to the mindset, the people you surround yourself with, and your willingness to do the work. But I think the more people we have like you kind of paving this path forward, the bigger and better the sport is going to become long term.
Yeah, I agree 100%, and I think it also shows, like, you're not in this alone, and, every athlete goes through some sort of injury at some point in their career, so, to have people share their stories and it's like, anything is possible, you can get through anything, like, if you just put your mind to it, so I think having, um having stories like mine or other people who have had injuries in the past that have come back and been better off for it, in their sport, I think it definitely really helps, other athletes who are going through the same thing or going through similar things. It's like you're not in this alone, what you said about tennis being, a little bit more popular, I would agree 100% with that, and I think that also has a lot to do with college tennis. I think college tennis is getting a lot of buzz, especially in the past couple of years and everything with NIL and, people who are coming from college tennis, going into the pros and doing really well. It's bringing a lot of publicity for college tennis, definitely. Athletes like Ben Shelton or Lulu Sun from Texas, like all these people who played college tennis and are really successful in the professional aspect of tennis. It's like it makes athletes like me and other athletes like coming into college really excited because it's like, wow, they did it, so like I can do it too. It's the same thing with injuries. It's like if you go through an injury and you come out on top, it's like, well, they did it, I can do it too. You know what I mean?
The sport itself is so impressive to watch from a skill standpoint as well. It's like, wait a second, you just served that ball and hit the thing like 100 miles an hour, and
Yeah.
somehow the other person on the other side was able to get there just in
Come
enough
back.
time to hit it back just as hard.
Yeah.
And then you go back and forth, back and forth. Like, it's
Yeah.
just crazy to watch. I mean, my tennis experience is limited to like high school PE class, and I'm pretty sure that it just turned into like home run derby for us to see who could hit it the furthest over the fence. Like there was not a whole lot of skill involved because it was really freaking challenging.
Yeah, it is.
Seriously, it's so incredible to watch, and I feel like it's very fast paced. And in general, you never really know what could happen. Obviously, someone's going to win and someone's not going to win, but
Yeah.
ultimately, like you could be evenly ranked, you could be very oppositely ranked, and you never know who's going to come out victorious that day.
Yeah, it literally just depends on the day. That's 100%, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it just you could be, ranked the same or have the same rating or things like that. It just yeah, it just depends on the day. If somebody's having a good day, if somebody's having a bad day. And that's what, like, makes tennis so fun. Because if you know, have a matchup with someone who's worse than you, and then, you're going into the match and then, like, you're thinking, "Oh, like, I should win," and then you lose, then it's like, well, that doesn't really make any sense, but that's, like, what makes it so fun and what makes tennis, I think, kinda different from every other sport is, like, every single match is different, like, it doesn't look the same ever, like, every single thing is different, and people have different game styles and, different game styles playing against other different game styles. It's like some people struggle against, certain game styles, like, I would say for me, I don't like playing somebody who just makes balls and who just, like, gets everything back and who's really fast, like, I wanna hit the ball hard. So that's somebody that, like, I would struggle against, and if it's someone who I think I'm better than, like, it doesn't mean that I'm gonna beat them, or some people, like, have a hard time playing against somebody like me, someone who hits the ball really hard. But yeah, I think that's just what, like, makes tennis so fun and exciting to watch is, like, everyone is different, and so having these different matchups and people playing against each other, I think that's what makes it so entertaining, and I think that's what people are starting to see a little bit more, for sure. But also, like, anybody can play tennis as well, like you were saying, at the lower levels with, like, high school tennis and stuff like that, like, anybody can pick up a racket and play, and obviously it gets way more physically demanding and a lot harder the higher level you play, but, like, anybody can go and, like, just pick up a racket and start hitting, and it's fun no matter what, so I think that's also, like, a really cool part about tennis. It's something that I really love about it.
Absolutely. And a few times you've dropped that concept of playing professionally and professional tennis that way. What does that process of going pro in tennis look like? And what exactly does professional tennis entail?
Yeah, it's definitely a very difficult process. I think a lot of people when they're younger, they say like, "I wanna play professionally," and they don't really know exactly what it takes to be a professional. Earlier, you're literally playing week in and week out. There's no off season. There's a tournament, I think, literally maybe 50 weeks out of the year. It's something like literally every weekend. I guess anybody can say like they're a professional tennis player, but you're really a professional tennis player when you're in the green, like you're actually making money and supporting yourself by like winning these tournaments. And you're really only doing that if you're ranked in the top like 250, maybe even higher. I don't really know. If you're making slams, that's when, like you've made it. You're a professional tennis player for real, but it takes a lot to get there, and just playing week in, week out. And tennis is really hard just because you play these tournaments and you could lose first round and then like you don't have anything for another week until you go to your next tournament. And so it's just the grind of playing these matches all the time. You could be playing like the same people, or you could be playing completely different people depending on where you travel to. Like traveling to the other side of the world, playing these tournaments. And it's, yeah, just the grind of trying to get points, and you get points by winning. So the more points you have, the higher your ranking is and the higher tournament that you can get into. So obviously like at the Grand Slam level, you need to be ranked like top 150 in the world to be getting into those. So it's just the grind of trying to get your ranking up pretty much, and that just takes time, and it takes a lot of money and a lot of energy. And it's a very lonely thing as well, because you have to do everything by yourself unless, you have the money to pay for a coach or pay for a physio or trainer or like all these different people. Like not a lot of people have the money to do that. So you're just traveling by yourself, staying in hotels by yourself, and just constantly spending all your money that you're like hopefully trying to win back. So it's a big process, but once you stay in it for long enough and hopefully have the success that you want, and you're playing at like the Grand Slam level, that's when things start turning around, because the money that's in those tournaments is like insane. Yet like I think if you make main draw of a slam, for losing first round you get like $80,000, something like that, which is like, wow, that's a nice little paycheck boost for sure. But yeah, so it's just once you get to the higher level tournaments, then it becomes a little bit less stressful with like the financial standpoint, but it's still, I mean, the level is just so much higher. Like you're playing against the top girls or guys, whatever, like in the world. So there's always something being thrown at you, which makes it hard, but that's also what makes it so rewarding once you do make it.
Absolutely. Yeah. You really have to kind of walk through the mud that way to get to that higher ground, if you will. And it's something that I've heard amongst so many different athletes we worked with. I remember working about a year ago now on the podcast. We did an episode with a girl named Sydney on the bobsled team, who shared that for her role on the bobsled team at the time, she was compensated like $120 a month. It's like, wait a second, like that's not even like one night in a hotel for
Yeah.
travel. It's a huge disconnect there. And I certainly think that athletes in general face this growing challenge of what it takes in order to be the best at sport. But if they have that desire, they find a way. But that success always comes at a cost, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. And this is something I've talked about with several individuals on the podcast about what that success cost them. And it was like, high school prom didn't go because we were away at this, the late nights and all that sort of thing, horsing around with the friends, that never really happened. It was just
Yeah.
sport was life, for lack of a better way to put it. Now, it's not to say you can't balance sport and social, but the meter certainly has to be tipped more towards the sports side than the social side in order for this to work. And sometimes the social side dips down so far because finances take over, and finances, as you mentioned, just fund the sport and the sport
Yeah.
journey and the sport dream. And a lot of people don't understand it, but they certainly understand once they see you kind of on the big stage and the big screen that way, doing what 0.1% of people ever in the sport will do. That's when the light bulb clicks for them, but they don't necessarily see what it takes to get there. And it sounds like for you, I mean, you did an incredible job outlining your process to get there.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a very big sacrifice. A lot of, yeah, social time and hanging out with your friends, hanging out with your family even. It's to probably like the biggest sacrifice that you would have to make is just like that time that you're losing, but you're also putting it into something that you want to do for the rest of your life, hopefully. So, yeah, it's just the balance of trying to find that. But yeah, definitely a really, really big sacrifice. But for a lot of people, it wouldn't be worth it, which is why they kind of stop. But for the top athletes, that's like something that they're willing to do, and that's why they're the top athletes that they are. So
Absolutely. DJ, for people who want to find out more about you and maybe reach out with like NIL opportunities or keep up to date with all the amazing tennis things that are going on in your world, where can they find you at?
find me on my Instagram, at DJTNNS. You can DM me through there. I'll try to check my DMs way more often because I haven't been the best at that. But that's where you can find me. You can find updates with Auburn women's tennis as well. I'm always reposting all their stuff. So yeah, if you want to stay updated with me and my life and Auburn women's tennis, then that's where you can find me. So
That's awesome. We'll link to that in the description below. That way, if you didn't quite catch it, you can just click there and see everything DJ is up to. DJ, is there anything we missed as we were chatting today, or any other thoughts or insights that you wanted to share with people?
I don't think so. I think covered a lot. I think that was hopefully good.
I think it was incredible. I truly admire you as a person. You're doing some amazing things in the space, and I cannot wait to see how this continues to evolve for you and the impact you continue to have on the sport and other people that way. So thank you so much for all the amazing things you're doing, and thank you so much for your time, DJ.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.